Okay. Hello, everyone. Pune River Revival arranges a webinar every Wednesday. It tries to arrange it every Wednesday. It is more or less related to the rivers. Uh, Even if we are speaking all the time about rivers in Pune, basically we are trying to attempt to understand each and every river across, and everything is interconnected. So in that context, we have already done a few webinars which we all can watch on YouTube, and we also welcome any feedbacks on that because those are quite technical as well, and we want people to understand most of it. Reach out to us if there are any queries. We want it to be into conversation. So please do visit earlier webinars. So we have Arjit today. Uh, so Arjit is a master's graduate in biodiversity. He's also an animal ecologist and a writer now. One smaller point before we go into the formal things is that my first discussion with Arjit was about how difficult it was to see a few common birds that otherwise were very much visible on river banks earlier, and that was the day I realized how important it is to, just keep an eye, keep a watch on what kind of birds are around so that I know my vicinity. So that is the thing that Arjit brought in for me. So he has conducted research projects on insect habitat ecology and bird monitoring projects at different locations in Maharashtra, and currently working as a nature writer at Youth Cosmo Environment magazine. So, Arjit, over to you. You can start, and you can actually share your screen if you want to. You are a co-host now. Over
Yes,
to you, Arjit.
this will stop others being sharing. So I wanted
Yeah.
to ask first, am I audible properly?
Yes, you are.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me check if so. Is my presentation visible properly?
Uh,
Yeah, it's visible. If you can put it in slideshow mode,
Slides.
uh,
Yes, yes. Let me do it. Okay. Hello, everybody. So I would thank the Jivitnari team for actually allowing me a chance to present on one of my favorite topics. And actually, I've also been working with the Jivitnari education team, especially Shubha and Darab, and birds do come up a lot in our sessions. So I just thought, why not? I was actually asked by Prajakta to give a talk on birds, and because they are very important the bioindicators of the river state. So just like the thermometer tells you about your health, birds, especially the presence of some specific water birds, which I will tell later, tells you about the health of the ecosystem. You don't even need to go to the field. Actually, if you even see the list and see some specific birds, if they are not there, then that means that the river is in trouble. Just like the thermometer, the birds indicate the river health. So yeah, so I will just start with the topic name which I chose, which is a bright past, a mixed present, and a grim future for the river birds. That is what I have seen and read and experienced. So let's go ahead to see what is the state of the river birds. I'll just start with a famous song, बघ्यांची माळ फुले अजूनही अंबरात. Famous song by Vasantarav, and it actually tells you about the river, very famous and common river bird, which is the egret, which you can see here. So you do realize that even in our literature, birds have such an important role, literature and especially art, and they have always been a part of the humanity. Uh, and we have always coexisted with them, but nowadays the things have become very difficult for them, and we will see how. So first, I will go to the historical aspect of Mula-Mutha River and especially birds, because there are many birds which old timers, and I especially talked with the I don't know how to change this. Okay. So first, I will just come to before the historical part. I will come to why should we care about birds? Why should even common citizens like you and I or anybody who lives in the city care about birds? So there are three aspects I think. The first is they are important ecological indicators. So as I said, like the thermometer, they indicate the health of the ecosystem, especially river birds, riparian birds like storks, river terns, ducks. Their presence indicates that the river is in a good condition. And you will see in the next slides how the number of these birds has changed over the years and how that has shown the degrading quality uh, of the rivers. The second aspect is it is for me such fun to watch birds, and I am sure bird watchers here who are into bird watching, they will also understand this. I think Sanjeev is here. He will also, I think he will relate to this, that watching birds gives you such mental pleasure. And I can actually say from my personal experience that whenever I started bird watching, whenever I do bird watching, it provides me such a great mental pleasure. So the mental health aspect is also very big for bird watching. Uh, there have been studies which have showed that they do provide a big boost to mental health, watching birds, even simple urban birds like bulbuls and all. The third thing, very important thing, is ecosystem services. So they help the ecosystem. Uh, they help the ecosystem to become stable and stay healthy. Not just birds, many animals, even insects, but birds specifically, they help in pollination. So sunbirds, for example, they help in pollination of some flowers, seed dispersal. So bulbuls, Indian grey hornbill, when they eat some fruits, they will disperse the seeds of these fruits into other places. So they help the plants to propagate themselves. And insect control. So insect control is done by many birds like bee eaters and some river birds also like wagtails. You will see they will eat lot of dragonflies. So they keep the insects in control, and the whole food web and food chain is kept in control by the birds. So that is the important thing. But the what I want to emphasize is the ecological indicators part, because the presence of specific birds in specific habitats, they tell you about the state of that habitat, and that's what we also use in biodiversity monitoring as an indicator. That is a very important aspect about birds. So these three, I think, aspects are why anybody should care about birds: the role they play in the ecosystem with respect to ecosystem services, the pleasure they provide to humans. Since 1800s, people have been doing bird watching, and it has been a big hobby and a fun hobby to have for many people, not just me. And ecological indicators aspect is also very important. Uh, so that is the three aspects I would say, which emphasize why birds are very important. Uh, Rupesh has asked, do bats have any role? So bats, yes, fruit bats especially, you can see a lot of them in Ramula river stretch. Fruit bats also play a big role in fruit dispersal, fruit seed dispersal. They eat lots of uh, fruiting trees, and they also play an important role. Bats, yes. So let me go to the history of Pune's birds in a very brief way. Uh, I can't see some of the things in my slide. How to move this? Okay. Yeah. So if you can see here on the right, it is a very old image of Mula-Mutha River from Pune. I don't know the exact spot, but can anybody guess the era? Just from the photo, you can see there is so less construction, and the river bank is very intact. You can see the slopes and also some of the scrub on both our sides of the river. So if can anybody guess what era this is from? Also, is anybody having any problem seeing the sides?
I can see the slide completely.
Okay,
So,
Bhaskar was saying. Okay,
yeah,
Amit is saying 1980s, but this is much older than that. So think even before independence. Just a fun question for anybody to guess. Anybody else wants to have a guess? Okay, anyway, so this is actually from 1850s, a long, long time ago. Uh, yeah, so Sanjeev was close. So this is from 1850s, Peshwa era. And at that time, actually, lots of old water storage tanks were also made, especially Kataraj, and they still exist now. Uh, so at that time, the river, from what I've seen, so I talked with Dr. Nalawade sir, and I also referred the paper by Dr. Prakash Gore on birds of a polluted river. It's funny, he says the river was polluted back in 1980s. If he was alive now, he would say he would say a lot worse thing than just polluted. But so from what I talked with people and from what I read from previous research papers, there were some birds. So this was very pristine habitats when the river flowed actually, and the river was in a very good condition in the 1980s, in the 1880s especially. So there were some birds which I've shown here, a few of them, which were very common at that time. So one of them is northern shoveler, which you can see on the right bottom. It's like a kind of duck. So this bird was present in almost hundreds of numbers at some sites, especially in Bund Garden region. But today, if you go to the river in city, now I'm not talking about Kavadi Path because Kavadi Path is outskirts of city, and you do see it there. But if you're talking about Pune city, like starting from Karvenagar or Mula River, uh, Baner till Bund Garden and Salimani Sanctuary to the east, this northern shoveler now is very rare. I mean, it is still seen in some numbers, but very rare and definitely not 100 plus. And this is a very special bird because it has a very unique beak. You can see it's like a long beak here, uh, black color, special beak. It has like a shovel. That's why it's called shoveler. And it needs very shallow water to find its prey, like snails and other uh, invertebrates. So uh, this is a migratory bird which comes from Europe and Eurasia, and you won't see it now in as big a number as uh, it was seen in the earlier era. Then pied kingfisher, I think some of you might have seen. It is still seen in some locations. I have seen it at Pashan Lake and Kavadi, but very very beautiful bird, and it has a very unique way of hunting fish. So it hovers on the water surface to hunt fish, and then dives down uh, quickly to catch the fish. Now it needs very clean water because it need to see the movement of the fish. But now due to pollution, its numbers have reduced a lot, and it is not seen in big numbers. It was seen earlier in large numbers. Interestingly, Dr. Nalawade also said Brahmini kite was also seen in large numbers. So let me show you a photo of Brahmini kite. How do I go to different tab? Uh, let me go to a different slide, different photo. Yeah, I just want to share a different. So can you see this bird in the image?
Yes.
This is the Brahmini kite. It has a very unique coloration in raptors. Like it has a very rich brown wings and white belly. And so earlier, Dr. Nalawade said that this bird was also seen near Aund and near COEP in the riverside. Now this bird now is very rare in Pune city. You can see it in Bigu and sometimes Kavadi, but usually it is seen near coast. But interestingly, this bird was seen even even in Pune city, which is now quite rare thing. and it is a very big lover of fish. So you will see it diving on the water. I just wanted to show this also. So this I have clicked at Ratnagiri, but today it's very rare in the city. But it was interesting for me to know that earlier it was seen in some places uh, in the city. Uh, I will go again to the PPT. Uh, okay, back to the presentation. So there is another bird which is known as green shank, and it comes to Pune all the way from the northern hemisphere. And you can see its shape. It's like a very peculiar shape. It has long legs and long beak. So it has that kind of shape because it is found near mudflats of the river. Uh, it needs that specific kind of muddy riverbank habitat. As you can see even in this image, the green shank is the one with the long leg and the long beak. So this bird was also seen regularly. It was a winter migrant, and it was very common earlier from what I uh, heard from Dr. Nalavade, who is a biodiversity expert, very experienced person, expert. So this green shank bird was also very rare and sorry, very common earlier, and now it is rare. So you can see these kind of birds now disappearing from the river because so many changes have happened. Even Saras crane was seen at Katar Lake, which was a huge surprise. Indian skimmer was seen at COEP earlier. Indian skimmer is like a very endangered and special bird now because it is seen only in like clean rivers and rivers with sandbanks, because that's where it nests, and it is not seen now. But it looks a little bit like river tone only, but it is much more bigger, big. Uh, so this is the historical context. So now this is the river which I will consider in my presentation. So if you can see the Varze bridge from the left side, then we go to Matra bridge on the center. This is where zone 4 is where the Mula-Mutha Sangam happens, where Mula and Mutha meet, and zone 5 is still the Salimani sanctuary. So this whole riverfront development project is covering this big area of more than 6-7 kilometers. uh, and this has all different kind of habitats which I will cover later. So what is the current state of the river birds? Did you know that still we have 150 plus species of river birds in Pune? uh, and but the thing now is like more generalized species are seen, like cormorants, egrets. Earlier I read that they were not very common, cormorants and egrets. Blackwing stilt now, the right most bird on the right of the image, that is seen very commonly now, and it thrives on polluted water. So that showed the state of the water now, which is very polluted. But we I have still seen some very IUCN threatened and bit uncommon birds like black-headed ibis. So this is a bird which likes to wade near the water and eat invertebrates. Painted stork, it doesn't dive, but it uses its beak and uh, moves its beak from side to side in the water to catch little fish and crustaceans. So these are two endangered. Sorry, one of them is endangered. Black-headed ibis is IUCN threatened, near threatened bird. But painted stork is also reducing in number. But we still see birds like this in the river side in Pune. Especially I've seen it in uh, Vittal Mandir, Rammoha confluence. So they are still there, but definitely the trend is definitely reducing. Like the trend of the population is definitely reducing. Uh, I will just tell about why some birds indicate specific habitats. So reddish duck, this bird I will show you later. It indicates deep water. It likes deep water to stroll in, to swim in. Spot-billed duck is a very common duck which we see. Haldi kunku duck we call it in Marathi. Haldi kunku badak we call it in Marathi. It likes the shallow water spots. And plovers, waders, these birds which I'll show later, they like rocky and muddy banks. And so that muddy banks is present in only very few riparian spots. So that's why these birds will see in those areas. Yellow wagtail likes grassland and riparian banks. Stalks, so stalks like this painted stalk, they will prefer the riparian vegetation like big trees like ficus or vines. These trees they will like to roost on them at the night. Herons and bitterns, purple heron, grey herons, you will find them in the reeds. Forest factory is a very beautiful bird which is found in the riparian forest. So these birds are like specific to this habitat near the river, and it is why all these habitat need to be conserved for these birds to survive. Uh, little bit of data which I extracted. So from what I saw on eBird and the file I downloaded from eBird, so you see like most of the birds still found in the last 10 years, they are still wetland dependent, water riparian dependent or water dependent birds. So you see 20% are wetland birds like storks, 11% are waders like sandpipers, plovers, and 8% of waterfowl like ducks and coots and these kind of birds. So if you can see like 20 and 40% of birds are still dependent on water in some way or other. So that is definitely encouraging. Interestingly, 20% birds are grassland birds, which shows that some of the habitats still have grasslands, uh, especially I've seen near Matra Bridge and this kind of area, there are some grasslands. The Odipath also has some grasslands. So, Zetting cisticola, roller, these birds are seen in grasslands and they are still there near the river. So it's not like, and some forest birds are also there, like forest bacteria, which I showed before. So it's not like mud banks and uh, river water itself is the habitat. There are other habitats like woodland and grasslands also. So that is interesting to know. And we get 50 migrant birds at least to the river side in city, which is a good sign. It's not like it's not like all the migrants have disappeared. Some of them are still coming. Uh, so that is the good thing. So promising spots. So if anybody wants to go birding in the riverside, what what birds or what hotspots or spots you should go. So I would say Ramona Confluence, as many from Jivitnali know, is a good spot, and they do a lot of cleanup work and outreach work there. So this is the riparian forest at the Ramona Confluence. Jivitnali, the team themselves click the photo. You can see such the rich forest present in the river in the city, and that is a very good sign. So each of these spots have different habitat features which make them unique. So Vittal Mandir river stretch has like rocky banks and bushes which you can see taming sting, woods and peppers on the rocky banks. So these waders prefer these banks. Rammo confluence, as I said, the forest factory is a very special bird which you can see here. Salimani Biodiversity Park has one of the highest number of migratory ducks still visiting. The shoveler which I showed you earlier, it is still seen at the Salim Ali Biodiversity Park. So this is in the Yarrawada region, and you can also see teals and shelducks there. Shelduck you also see in Rammark also. So these are the migratory birds which still come. Bitterns are some very shy birds which need reeds near the river side. So they are seen in the Varde side of the river. And Kaudipath for me is the best river birding spot in Pune district. Now it doesn't come exactly in city. It comes more in the Hadapsar and that side. But you see marsh harrier, which you have showed a photo of. Marsh harrier is a very specific bird of the wetland habitat, and it feeds on fish especially. And it is a big raptor which is seen in the winter, and you will see it in Kavadipat, but not too much in the other areas of the city. Blue throat is a very small special bird with a bright blue throat, which visits in the winter, and that is also seen in Kavadipat, and it has been recorded in Vittal Mandir also. It also needs bushes and reeds to forage. So these are the few, I think, hotspots I thought that if anybody is interested in birding in the riverside, you should visit. I would definitely recommend these spots. Yeah. So personal experiences. So I will just tell a little bit about personal experiences. So I have enjoyed birding at Ramona Confluence, Vittal Mandir and Kaudi, and each of these spots has a very unique habitat and unique birds. So the left side photo of the small brown bird is the taming sting, and that is a not a very common bird in the city. As you can see, the specific habitat here of the Vittalmandi River stretch, the rocky river banks, which these birds waders like. So this is a rare winter migrant which I saw. On the center, I am not sure the photo is very clear, but there are so many three, four ducks which you can see from the Mula-Mutha River in Kavadi Path. So the one in the center, which has like it has like a tika or a punku kind of thing on its forehead, that is Eurasian vision that comes from Europe and Russia to India, and that is not very common in the city. You can also see traveler here on the left, and there are also teals. So all of these migratory ducks come to Kavadi Path. So it is such a rich habitat. Yes. And the forest factor is a very beautiful bird which is seen on the right. Uh, it is also migratory bird. So I will just go to the riverfront development. Now you can see the number of birds which are thriving are still not very low, but it is decreasing. And due to the riverfront development, you can see all the JCB building the wall on the Bund Garden side. So this directly affects the bird habitat. So the nesting spots of lapwings and uh, stalks, when the trees are destroyed, the nesting habitat of the stalks is damaged. The pollution will increase. So all this will directly affect the bird habitats, and not just the birds, even the fishermen living there, their own livelihood will be affected. So this is a very disastrous effect on the. This will have a very disastrous effect on the river side. And what is needed is not development but eco restoration, increasing the flow, native plantations, cleanups. That is what is needed, and this is what the birds will also say. So this is my final message from the bird's point of view. If we do not protect the Mula-Mutha, you will not be able to enjoy the beautiful birds like this red-shelled duck here. So that is a very short overview of the birds of the Mula-Mutha, and just a final image of thank you. And this is the flamingos which I saw at Big One, maybe the most famous wetland in Pune region. So this is a very brief overview, but let me know your thoughts, and if anybody has questions, I'm happy to share.
Okay. Uh, thank you, Arjit. I mean, everyone will speak their mind through the questions they might be having, but it was really, I mean, I caught up a lot of points which I might be missing when I'm going to the river. Thank you so much for that. So we will have a question answer session which Sanjeev will conduct. Jaideep, do we have
Sure.
any announcement before that?
I want to make a very quick appeal.
Yes, please.
People like Arjit spend their own personal time to, study the biodiversity there, to study the impacts. People like Sarang and others fight litigation. So there are many angles to us trying to save these birds, save the river. All of this is done voluntarily. There is expenses involved in all of this. I want to urge anyone who is just recently joined to do two things. One is join Pune River Revival group. There is a WhatsApp group. It's useful to have be on that group for a couple of reasons. One is, if you spot a bird, experts like Arjit are there. You can share that photo. Hey, I saw this bird. What bird is it? What does it indicate? Any little things like that. You're connected to a community which is working on conservation. The second appeal I want to make is, since we are all of this conservation is completely voluntarily done. I want to urge anyone, to whoever it is possible, to give a little donation to Jeevit Nadi. All the donations towards Pune River Revival come through Jeevit Nadi. So we will. I believe Amit will share that in the group. But the easiest way is to join in the chat. But the easiest way to do connect with us, give donations, and stay connected to this community which is doing the conservation, trying to protect this river. A lot of these things got destroyed already. Salim Ali Biodiversity Park went through ravages, and we tried to save that. But we've also got some wins. This is the group which got successful litigation, which has forced the high courts have pushed and have asked the PMC to demarcate the red line, blue line, which are the flood lines, which will protect the floodplains, which benefit the birds again. So that's my appeal. And since I have the mic, if I have the liberty, can I go ahead and ask a question?
Yes,
For
please.
sure. I also actually wanted to add one credit which I forgot. So that map which I showed of the river Mulkar is there. So they made an excellent report which I read thoroughly, asking like studying the habitats and studying the ecosystems of the spots which the riverfront development was going to affect, and their recommendations were very good about like reducing pollution and managing channelization, doing plantations. But unfortunately, so I felt very sad to know the fate of that report. But yeah, it was a very good work, especially for me having done research and having read that it was a very good report, and that is what should be followed actually. More natural eco restoration.
Yeah, and that report is available on the Ecological Society website if anybody wants to refer to it.
Yes, yes. Lots of things have changed in that report, but yeah, it is available.
Yeah, things change every day here.
So great. Shall we move on to questions? And
Yes, please.
okay, so maybe I'll be the first one to go. Arjit, since you're aware that Salim Ali Biodiversity Park, they put a metro through it, then a road through it. Do we know what impact it has had on the birds? And by the way, you're on mute, Arjit.
Yeah, so I haven't studied like the recent things after the whole metro and all, but even from before, like the birds which were seen there, uh, like common teal and like so some migratory birds, especially, they are still seen now, but they have definitely reduced. But at least from when I went there for survey, I didn't see many of the like the specialized birds, but so I know people who have done birding there recently. I can ask them and give a latest update, but definitely not good signs uh, from what is happening there. I think they tree felling also took there recently, right?
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, that will definitely. But yeah, it might take few months to know the impact.
Right.
Mhm.
So I want to point out that Amit Singh had made a comment when you were describing the Raptors that they used to have to protect their dabbas. I trust his school was
Yeah,
far, but the circling of range of these Raptors used to be quite wide, and now they must be constrained. So I just thought that was a beautiful comment he shared.
yeah,
It was the playful nature of birds with humans,
yes,
and that's
yes,
practically
definitely.
gone. Yeah.
No, but I have a
Guys,
question for Amit. Amit, are you sure these were the Brahmini kites that you're talking about or the common kite for Dabba? Because in our school, we had a flock of common kites which used to come, not Brahmini kites.
So I don't know if Amit is still around, but if he's
Yeah.
around,
Please, please.
okay, go ahead.
Yeah, can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, it's a little choppy, but we can
Hello.
hear. Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So yeah, these were the Brahmini kites. They've got a special. It's like as if the condors have a special cut on at the edge of their wings. So you can tell the
Brahmini
Brahmini kite
kites
is different
not the
from
motor
these.
body, but they are like white belly and brown color. If you remember.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
have a
yeah.
white head, very
Yes.
distinctly white head, and they
White
don't
head,
have a
very
fork in the
distinct
tail.
white head. Yeah,
Very
that
surprising
that
because
wing that they have at the
which school was this?
Loyola's in Pashan.
Oh,
Maybe
okay.
We were in the middle of
maybe
nowhere.
near the lake or something. But yeah, I mean, Brahmini kites were seen before, even allowed sir.
Yeah, we had Pashan Lake.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
had
yeah.
Pashan Lake.
So
And we
they were
had a
common on
swimming pool.
Pashan Lake. Yeah. Mm.
So so we had Pashan Lake, which was very close by. And 1980s, Pashan was like literally there was nothing between us and NDA. There used to be CL and ARDL, that laboratory, and then the residential quarters of all these officers, which was by Pashan Lake, of course. And then you would come to Chandni Chowk, and then after Chandni Chowk, you would cycle all the way up to NDA. So there was literally nothing between Pashan Lake and us.
Pashan Lake also the entire habitat had changed. Earlier it was scrub and the slopes of the lake
Yeah,
used
the
to be
entire habitat
natural.
has changed. I remember those days there were fisher folk and some fishing communities which had settled by Pashan Lake. So when you went through those ARDL quarters, there was no fence really. You could walk straight up, you could cycle all the way up to Pashan Lake. And there used to be these 2, 3 fishing communities who would actually fish in Pashan Lake. So I remember those guys also, but I think the water lake is deteriorated and I think they moved.
And now like fish diversity would have also reduced. Uh, Now also there are fishermen, but they are only allowed by the PMC. Like some of them, it's like not like a public fishing place. Yeah, but that was also definitely one
So
of the
when I began fishing in the 90s, yeah, so when I began fishing in the 90s, we used to get these two species very commonly, the and this chilapi or tilapia. Those we got commonly those days, and we used big catfish up to 2, 3 kilos, maybe 4 kilos also. See, so when I was fishing in this very Mula-Mutha, we used to fish. But the river in the 90s, it had already begun to deteriorate.
tilapia
The lakes
got
are really
introduced.
pristine.
It increased after the 90s. Yeah, I mean now only tilapia mostly will be there in the lakes and rivers. So I don't know if that also could have affected the birds because these big fish only the big birds can eat. Only cormorants and storks can eat uh, these big fish. Smaller fish might be some other birds could also have been able to eat. But maybe, yeah, that is also interesting question if they are linked. The fish diversity changes and the bird diversity changes, are they linked? Yeah, definitely a question worth studying.
So, Arjit, there is another question in the chat box. It says, could you comment on the higher number of birds present at places such as Ambiloda?
Okay, so I haven't been to that place. It's near Katraj, right?
It's near Matre Bridge.
Okay, Mata Beach.
Huh.
Yeah. Okay, Mata Beach.
So
So
Ambeloda, when it is coming into the river, we see huge number of birds there. And what does that indicate is a common question that I have seen people come across.
so that was made from very old time. So maybe because that state has remained like that. But I haven't seen the birds there. So unless I know
Okay.
the like the species of birds which were there, then I could tell what it indicates. If anybody remember the species they saw, then I can say tell about the
Yeah, I could probably comment on that. Where the Ambiloda meets the river, there is a huge collection of black-winged stilts which is seen there. And that's a typical indicator of pollution coming and spewing into the main river. But you also occasionally see black-headed ibises there. They're quite common, in fact, as also painted storks. So if you stop by on that river road in front of Ambiloda, you might be lucky to see painted storks, black-headed ibis, and a black-winged stilt. All three of them are commonly found together.
Wow. That's wonderful. So, Arjit, I have one other concern that there are multiple micro islands, some small, some very tiny ones, and from what I understand, they are also going to dredge the river to increase its carrying capacity because they're narrowing it, so they want to deepen it too. If they do that, what will be the impact on birds if they take away the micro islands?
yeah. So depending on if the islands have some trees or anything, then storks and herons usually rest on these trees. So their resting spot will be gone. Uh, if 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 the some of the islands, if they are muddy or sandy, then river terns also use them for nesting. Uh,
Hmm.
so all these habitats will be lost with the islands. So it will definitely affect, but depends on the like the what is the main habitat in the island. But different birds can use it depending on the habitat.
Okay.
Can I add to this? We have seen exactly what Arjit is saying. We had seen this happen in Pashan Lake,
Yes.
where on the right hand side of the uh, uh, wall, Pashan Lake wall, there is an entire pitching has been done. That entire bank is completely devoid of birds now because that stone pitching is so steep that waders can't stand. And these are black basalt stones. So in the entire day, they soak up the heat and nothing can grow on it. So that habitat is totally dead now. And that's exactly what is going to happen with the riverfront development, with the stone pitching.
So
Yes,
sad.
exactly. The natural slopes and muddy banks which are needed by lots of these waders, they will get destroyed. Yeah, so hardly now we see waders in Pashan Lake also. Like sometimes you see sandpipers, but earlier the numbers were much better.
So there is one addition I can add to Gurudas. So in the case of RFT, it will be a double whammy because not only are they going to remove the river banks, but they've also removed the trees. So at least in Pashan, we have trees which were now hosting some birds. But in case of riverfront development, they have made sure even the trees are not there. So there is no river bank and there are no natural trees. So you won't have river birds also, and we won't have the tree birds also. So all you will have is good, nice fountains and probably three species of birds which you'll all enjoy, which is birds, crows, and mynas.
Yeah.
So this will be the the general population which you'll enjoy on the RFT, which you also enjoy around your society.
And of
So you're non
course, we have those huge paintings of kingfisher and all those which they had.
correct. So they are very kind enough to paint all the species of birds on the walls which you will enjoy.
They will
Since
show
you will
the
not see them
species which
live.
are missing. They will only be
Yeah.
seen from the paintings.
So, I mean, just to give people knowledge, I think they can contribute in different ways, like Jaideep says, and we hold bird walks around some of these stretches, maybe in the month of November, December, January. So, do join us on those walks, which we will, advertise over the group and call your friends, because this is the only way which we will be able to take this message of how important birds and all other creatures are there for the river, and how people can actually build up momentum to save, conserve and save these uh, ecosystems.
Yeah.
One special thing I want to mention is Nike bed. That is also like been bit of a issue now. But from the survey that I did, like we got like the top three highest number of birds there because it had some wetlands, it had some forest, very rich forest. That is also a very good place for bird diversity. But I think even that is going to change now due to the whole RFT. But it's private, so I don't know how they are going to get permission or anything for it. But I think they were also trying to build some bridge towards it and those kind of things, which will definitely affect because like not only directly bridges will affect the structure, but I think maybe people don't relate directly the impact because like stray dogs, for example, get a road to go to these islands through the bridge and they destroy a lot of eggs of the birds. So these indirect impacts also happen, which maybe are not immediately visible, but they could happen due to all these things.
Right, nesting sites and all are gone now. Right.
So we are a small group. Does anyone else have any questions? Please just unmute yourself and ask your question. Perhaps we can take one or two questions. So Arjit, I have another question at the so there are all these migratory birds which come from all the way from Siberia and far, far away. What I learned is they have some kind of ancestral memory which they but how is this going to impact if they come and see and some imprint that I don't know what they are gifted with, they are also going to get lost through this whole process and not make it down further wherever they go, right?
You mean like seeing the pollution and those things, or
Yeah, in general, the city is dystopian. So, when they approach the city, they must have a route. And then when they come into the city, it's completely, not what they were trained for or to expect. They come expecting from very far, expecting food, resting, hosting, roosting spots, and they're not
okay?
going to get
So
that, right?
yeah,
So,
so there are two things. So the first thing is like it will all depend on the habitat. So they will need some specific habitat to do their, especially feeding, and so they won't nest here obviously, but feeding especially they need specific habitat. So as I said, as Gurudas sir also said, if they have those mud banks, for example, waders, I showed you the photo of the stint. These waders, if they have these mud banks, then they will find the worms and snails and these kind of things to eat. But if they don't have that, then they will look for another alternative places. So that will happen. So if the entire river is concretized, they won't have these habitats to eat. The other thing is climate change, which I didn't talk about much, but it definitely a thing which will affect the birds. Uh, Irregular weather like late like winter rains or like erratic weather, that will also affect their migration, because their migration depends on the magnetic field and sun orientation and these things are affected by climate change. So indirectly their migrations could also be affected by climate change. So that is also another thing aspect. uh, Amit said something about night bed. So no, what I said is night bed, from what I saw in our surveys, uh, it had a very good biodiversity, and because it had a very thick forest, and also lots of reeds which are good for purple herons, and some trees which were good for storks, and also some water birds. So it was a very good place with respect to biodiversity from what I've seen. And not many people go there because of the access. I think I was also lucky; nobody stopped me from going there. But it is definitely a very good place for biodiversity, and I hope it is preserved. So that's what I was saying about night bed.
So thankfully, I think Nightbait is going to remain as it is because the Choldias and the municipality have not been able to reach an agreement on the FS. So the land is not going to be handed over to the PMC, which means that it will remain as is. As of now, that is the status.
Okay, okay, that's
But
good.
somebody needs to convince them that we can make it an arboretum, and that could be their contribution to Pune society, Pune city as such, and they can name it after them, after the punching group or whatever, instead of damaging it to PMC and then PMC makes an RFD out of that. So there's more than 2,500 trees of close to different species. There's some, I think they had gathered Ajinkya Naik, the gentleman who is the original family which owns Naik Bet, his grandfather um, gathered all those trees and species. I think more than 800 species of trees from everywhere in India. He curated all those trees only to um, keep that island from flowing away, from getting washed away by floods. That's the history of the place.
hey, in interest of time, I see that we are almost at 9 o'clock. So if there aren't any other questions, Sanjeev, you want to have a closing remark?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think Amit said something about having a tree mapping survey tomorrow. So whoever is interested, I mean, whoever it's possible, please join that at. I think you mentioned that, right? Okay, fine. So we're going to do tree mapping, especially near the river in Aun. So people can join. Also, they can come and see birds during that time. So please do that. And yeah, thanks Arjit for a very informative session on the birds of Mula-Mutha, which are very vital to our not just our rivers but our cities. That's the joy which people can have instead of artificial joys which will last only for a short time, but this will be lasting for a long time. So thanks for bringing this to the awareness of all the people, and hopefully more and more people will join our movement. Yeah, thank you, Arjit.
Yeah,
Thanks
thank
everyone
you
for
for
joining and
providing
being
the
there.
opportunity.
Hey, thank you all. Have a good night.
Bye bye. Good night.
Amit, you're stopping.